I want to come back to a question I asked last night and to some amazing hypocrisy. The question, why are the protests in Victoria against mandatory vaccination and lockdown laws, why are they bigger and angrier than in any other state?
I look forward to the day I get to see you dance on the end of a rope, you evil little bastard.
Now, last night I blamed Victorian Premier Daniel Andrews. He's divided Victorians quite deliberately. He's set the good against the so-called bad. Victorians have opposed his draconian laws and the brutal ways that they were enforced. And when you divide people like that, they will tend to respond in kind because hate breeds hate, right? Now contrast Andrews' approach to that of, say, New South Wales, which has just put on ice its own plans to extend police powers under emergency pandemic laws to 2023. Liberal MPs said no, this was too much, it was too divisive, let's cool down. And unfortunately, cooling things down is not how Victorian Labor does things. No. Dividing people and then demonising one side, setting the other against that one and creating hate, that is the Daniel Andrews way. And the fact that hypocritical journalists of the left are buying this is actually even more reason to be appalled by this poisonous politics that brings us even closer to elected tyrannies where the majority bullies a hated minority. Well, today we've got even more shocking evidence of this divide and conquer tactic and of the media falling for what they actually should condemn. Now, I've made clear that some, just a few, of the tens of thousands of protesters against Daniel Andrews in this past week, they have acted disgracefully. But it is a very big mistake to say that those few represent the many. It's either a mistake or it's downright dishonest. In fact, the opponents to Daniel Andrews' new bill to give himself even more power in the pandemic to lock people in their homes, detain them indefinitely without trial, well, these opponents actually include the Bar Council, the Law Society, Liberty Victoria, the Ombudsman.
Where a serious gap for me is the lack of independent oversight.
But Daniel Andrews, again today, and today's probably the worst example yet, very deliberately lumped them all in together, the crazies with the reasonable. Now, it's true that Daniel Andrews and his family have been abused and threatened by peanuts out in the public, and that I find disgusting. Me and my family, we've copped the same sort of threats, maybe not as many as him, and I know how very upsetting that can be. But we need leadership here, a leader to reach out and bring people together, to start the healing, like you see with the New South Wales Premier. Instead, Daniel Andrews today stepped up the vilification of the protesters, contrasting them quite deliberately, these evil ones, with the good Victorians who follow his rules.
There are some people who are threatening me, they're threatening my family. They are essentially attacking the safety of my family. Be really clear and hear this message. I will not be deterred from the work I'm doing to keep every family safe. I wouldn't want the appalling, the disgusting and the potentially criminal behaviour of a small number of people to detract away from the amazing job that so many Victorians have done.
Now, you might give him a pass on that, given how upset he is about the threats. But Andrews went from that to demonising any Liberal MP who'd even talked to the protesters in general, including the many peaceful protesters, as if these Liberals were then aligned with violence and evil.
Politics is often about what you stand for, and it's always about who you stand with. And there have been some podium shared, some comfort given. This is a preference hunt for some, and I don't think that ordinary, hard-working, mainstream Victorians, those who are not ugly extremists, will easily or readily forget who's been out on the front steps currying favour with extremists.
That is so vicious. That is the big smear, the big lie, that you're either with Daniel Andrews or you're a vicious extremist. Now, this politics in Victoria of demonising opponents is no way to respond to all those tens of thousands of people who protested peacefully on Saturday, or to the legal and human rights groups who also raised concerns, or to the people who protested last night outside Parliament, again peacefully, or to the many at home that would have done it if they'd dared. I don't agree with anti-vaccine protesters. I don't. Although I am troubled by mandatory vaccines, the extent of them. But even if you think the protesters are wrong, even if you think that, like the government, that most of them are anti-vaxxers and anti-vaxxers are evil, how is this precisely supposed to end? By arresting them all in their tens of thousands? Yet today I heard on the ABC, for instance, far-left host Virginia Trioli echo Labor's attack, also abusing Liberal politicians who simply spoke to the protesters, insisting they should never consort with people who'd called for Andrews to die, even though the vast majority had not, would not. And that again is the big smear. And it's the hypocrisy. Virginia Trioli herself has happily shared the stage with Clementine Ford, who infamously tweeted that the coronavirus wasn't killing men fast enough. And she has attacked Greens, well, she has not attacked, not that I know of, Greens leader Adam Bant for speaking at a protest where an effigy was burned of then Federal Liberal Education Minister Christopher Pyne. I also wonder if she's attacked her own ABC for still employing host Benjamin Law, who once wrote that some gays were huge and muscled, built like a brick S-house, and they could demolish my face if they wanted to, and that was definitely fine by me, said this ABC host. And I got to ask, should no Australian now, no politician appear on her own ABC when that ABC has broadcast calls to kill and destroy?
I think violence is okay.
This is
Let's
really
burn stuff.
How many rapists must we kill? Not the state, because I disagree with the death penalty. I want women themselves. As a woman, I'm asking, how many rapists must we kill until men stop raping us?
Criticise extremists who preach violence, as I do, on both sides of politics. Defend the principle, not just the side. And don't hypocritically use a few extremists to vilify the many for your cynical political purposes. I don't say or imply that everyone on the ABC is a man-hating vigilante who should kill suspected rapists and burn stuff. So let's not try that kind of smear politics on all these protesters as well. Don't play Daniel Andrews' game, because God knows what hell we're in for when we turn on each other like that.